Hello, I'm Kimberly Dondo, Digital Content Manager, and welcome to In Conversation With, the podcast series that delves into the world of financial services and brings you face to face with some of the most notable figures in the industry. Listen as we discuss topics that are currently facing the industry and hear from visionary CEOs to disruptive innovators as we bring you a diverse array of voices and perspectives. We'll explore the challenges they faced, the lessons they've learned, and the insights they have to share about the ever-evolving landscape of financial services.
Hi, I'm Lois Vallely, Chief Reporter of Money Marketing, and on this episode of our podcast, I'm joined by Steve Jordan, who is Director and Co-founder of Five Wealth. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Lois. Really pleased to be here. Thanks a lot.
So perhaps you could start off just by introducing yourself, saying a bit about how and why you decided to join the advice profession.
I'll give it a go. My name's Steve Jordan. I'm a co-founder and director of Five Wealth, a business we set up coming on for 8 years ago now. So how did I get into financial advice? I think like a lot of people in the industry, it was a bit by accident. At college and school, I was reasonably good at maths and economics, which led me to an economics degree. When I came out of university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I had an economics degree, and that led into generic finance, the finance world. I didn't really know what that meant at all, but I applied for a few graduate positions, and one was a company in Leeds which did pension scheme wind-ups and endowment redress mis-selling complaints, neither of which I knew what they were, but it was a good graduate job and seemed to be a foot on the ladder. And that company actually paid for me to do the old FPC as part of my training, which I did, again, not really knowing what it was about, but I did the FP 1, 2 and 3 and passed the exams. And then I wanted to come back to Manchester because at that point I'd moved to Leeds for a while and was seconded to Sheffield, but I wanted to come back to Manchester and saw a job advert that, and I don't know if you'd get away with this now, but it said Red Brick University, 2-1 in a classical degree, must have FP 1, 2 and 3. And I had all of those. I think I just got my result for FP3. And it was in an area in Manchester that I'd always wanted to work. As I walked past, I always thought it was quite a cool courtyard. So I applied and I got the job. And I've sort of been in the industry ever since. That was as a trainee paraplanner, a really good company in Manchester that I stayed with for many years until I left to set up Five Wealth. And I've enjoyed it ever since.
Excellent. Red Brick University, that's a term I haven't heard for a while.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
That's great, thank you. So could you tell us maybe a little bit about Five Wealth itself? You said you launched 8 years ago. What have you been doing since then? I know you've launched an ESG portfolio offering as well. I don't know if you want to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I can talk about all that. So, there was 5 of us that launched Five Wealth 8 years ago. Really imaginative title. You can tell we're finance professionals, not necessarily creatives. But there was 5 of us that launched the firm. We had a number of staff to start with because we were all moving companies from a different business, and we just really wanted to launch a business that was focused on what we'd all done so far, but in our own way, which was entirely focused on business owners and professionals, financial planning led, but a key focus on investments as well. And we had a very young, the 5 of us that set up the business were a range of ages. I was the youngest, I still am the youngest, but we had really young, highly qualified key members of staff that we wanted to grow with us and build the business together. And Yeah, that was 8 years ago. I think there was 15 or 16 of us on day one. I think we're at 32 now, and have grown quite meaningfully over that period. 12 months ago, just over, we took some investment from Foresight Private Equity in order to exit some retiring shareholders, and to provide some growth capital and incentivization for the rest of the young team to carry on going, because we're quite away from retirement yet, so we've got quite a bit to do.
Exciting. How many advisors is that then?
We have just had 2 new advisors qualify and sign off, so I think that takes us to 8.
Okay, excellent. And then, yes, so I know you've recently launched this ESG portfolio offering. Could you talk to us a bit about that? What was the thinking behind it? Why have you decided to do that now?
Yeah, well, it was a couple of things. We manage a range of discretionary portfolios in tandem with LGT, and we run those on a discretionary basis with a joint investment committee to great success. And we've always had a range of sort of core portfolios and one ESG portfolio, but that ESG portfolio was getting a great deal of traction, a great deal of interest from clients. And LGT as a investment organisation, as a private bank, have a huge amount of ESG research pedigree and background. So it seemed the natural fit to expand our range of core investment offerings to an ESG range in allied to our sort of core ESG principles. And we developed a document that explains what those are for clients so they can understand how we approach that area of investment. And I think it's a growing area. I think clients are asking more, people are showing more interest in that area. So we responded to demand. I think Foresight as an organisation, now having investment in 5 Wealth, are quite well known for their ESG credentials and bringing sustainability and a sustainability tool to all their portfolio businesses. So it all just felt like the right time to do something, and it's been getting good traction from clients. It opens up the conversation that we can have with clients about that area of their investment and how they feel about different areas of ESG on their portfolio. So yeah, I think it's been the right time to do it, and it's working really well so far.
Excellent. You mentioned a document for clients there, sort of setting out what ESG means to you. Could you give us a little flavour of that? What does ESG mean?
I think it's very difficult with ESG in general to sort of dictate to people what that means, because everybody has a different view on different, whether it's the E, the S, and the G, and there's not a one size fits all approach. So what we've done is spend quite a bit of time sort of putting together a document that explains how we're approaching things and how there's not of course there are blanket exclusions for certain areas, alcohol, pornography, things like that, blanket exclusions in the portfolio for that. But there are just ways of approaching different areas such as deforestation, palm oil, and there's not necessarily black and whites with that. So we've tried to set out a document that goes into as much detail as we can without being too lengthy to explain how we approach those areas, and clients can read that, engage with us, discuss the concepts, so they're comfortable with how we're approaching ESG in our portfolios. Because I do think if you get into too much detail with it, there's people have different views on different things.
Yeah, it turns into quite an emotive thing, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
People sort of bringing their opinions into it. What do you think's the future of ESG more generally then in the investing world?
I think generally what we're seeing over the past couple of years is that nowadays most funds, if you're investing via funds, screen for ESG, or there are passives if you invest that way that screen for ESG as well. And I wonder, I mean, I'm no expert in this, but I wonder if in time most funds will be ESG in the current way of thinking about it, and the development of more impact funds and impact strategies for people that want to invest in a specific way or in a specific area, whether the E matters more, the S or the G, or all three. I've got clients at the minute that are very focused on carbon. They're very focused on biodiversity net gain, regenerative agriculture, and they want to invest in that way. That's their passion. And I think as time goes, there will be more investment options for that impact area of investing.
Yeah, definitely. I think because I don't have any evidence for this, but I get the impression when I talk to many people in the industry that they sort of view ESG as what I would think of as impact, being a bit sort of, as they term it, woke and a bit sort of green and environmentally friendly, maybe in a way that they don't like. Whereas I think, as you say, I agree. I think most funds probably will have an element of ESG as we see it, as it is now in future. It's really interesting. There's just so many different terms in the space. I think it just confuses people. Ethical,
I agree. As with anything that's, I say new, it's not new, but relatively new in the wider investment world. We've got to be careful about greenwashing and things like that. But I think it will come back to what clients want, and that's what it should be. It's what do clients, how do they want their money to be invested? And some people will want that impact, and they'll have to accept that there are certain risks with that. If you have quite a focused portfolio on certain areas, that might perform well, it might not. So there are risks involved, but I think it should be client led. We should be responding to what people want. So I think we're at the start of this, and the portfolios we've launched and the time we've put into explaining how we've approached them opens good debate for clients and shows that we're trying to respond to that demand.
Excellent. And do you think the FCA's sustainability labels will help investors and advisors? And are you having to sort of do anything about that?
I think with any of this, I think it will evolve. You've got the 16 ESG, the 16 impact criteria, and we follow those. We can see where funds are rated in that area. But again, I think it will evolve. I think everything, the FCA are trying to do the right thing, and that's a positive. But this will evolve quite significantly over time as it becomes a larger area of investment and requirement for clients.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. More generally then, moving on from ESG, which I know is a big thing for financial advisors and getting bigger, what do you think are some of the other sort of big challenges for the financial planning profession at the moment? What do you say are the biggest?
I think there's a number. I think on that ESG, I suppose on that line, it's about bringing young people into the industry and a diverse range of young people into the industry. Historically, this industry, and it's becoming less so, and there's some great initiatives out there like Next Gen Planners and things like that. But it's about widening education for people at a younger age on what financial planning is and what managing their money is. So we do a number of things for that. We put seminars on for our clients' children once a year. We do a number of seminars at various ages, more of information about budgeting, about buying your first house, about going to university, managing what your first paycheck means, to build that financial education for the children of clients. And a number of my colleagues are doing other initiatives where they go into schools and talk to children about the basics of financial planning, budgeting, etc. But I think where we've always been quite successful is the vast majority of our team came either straight from university or maybe they'd had one brief job and then move to Five Wealth. So I think the more people understand about how important financial planning is, the more they'll be keen on it as a career, and the more they will go into this profession, and it will become more diverse by virtue of that over time. I think if you look at Five Wealth, I think we do have a young team. We've got a key sort of 40% of our advice team are young female, which I think is fantastic. And I think the industry needs to move that way. It's been long. It's not been like that for the past 15, 20 years of my career anyway.
No, definitely not. My colleagues will kill me if I don't shout out to our initiative sister. Oh, it's not really launched by Money Marketing, but it's like under the auspices of Money Marketing, Future Financial Advisor, which is to help sort of school and university children or young people who might want a career in financial advice.
That's perfect.
It's sort of flagging it up as a career, but also, providing guidance and things to very young people who might want a career in financial advice. So for anyone who's interested, do check that out.
I think things like that are brilliant because, as I said at the start, I fell into this job, and it's been a brilliant career for me, and I would recommend it to anyone. But it's only 20 years ago, and I didn't know anything about it. It was luck more than good judgment that got me here. And but I am seeing more and more, with work with universities and things, people taking financial planning degrees, and that's only a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'd never heard of it as a career either. But I suppose the more we talk to people about it as a career, the more people are going to hear about it as, people who, particularly younger people who might actually benefit from advice themselves, who might not necessarily know that that's something that they should even be thinking about taking.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of a twofold thing. Excellent. And we've obviously also got this advice gap. So we just talked about the advisor gap. I always get confused between the two. Advisor gap, so not enough advisors. We've also got this advice gap, which is a lot of people, it's defined differently. I think there's lots of different sort of variations on definitions for it. But one of them I'm particularly interested in is how we can get more people with maybe not quite as much, like not the ultra high net worth, but people who might just be sort of mid-level salary working professionals, but who might want to have some advice about their pension, say, getting more. How do you think there's an answer there? And does the answer come from advisors, or should it be something wider?
I think there's a few things there, and I don't think there's one solution. But where we've seen a number of positives, within our clients is obviously a big focus for us, and our niche really is clients that own a business and clients that advise people that own a business, so professionals. Over the past few years, since probably since COVID, what we've seen a lot of employers doing, and we've engaged with a lot of our business owning clients, is that we've put on quite a few seminars for their workforce at all levels. Similarly, a much higher level version of the things that we do for clients' children is so we've done Zoom workshops, speaking to full workforces about all areas of financial planning. It's not advice, it's guidance, it's information to give them the tools to then hopefully go out and start to plan for themselves, or to find their own advisor, or to come to us if that's what they want to do. So I think employers have more of a duty now to help their staff. I think having wider employee benefits and things like that, and giving the staff the information, employee well-being is a massive positive. I think information now is much more widespread than it was. I think most advisors and most people are quite willing to share their knowledge for free. I think that's really important. Information is at everyone's fingertips now. AI should hopefully help able to deliver or help in the delivery of that advice or guidance at a lower cost. And I think that's the derivation of what we all used to call robo-advice a few years ago.
Yeah.
But the low-cost platforms, being able to invest yourself with low-cost apps and low-cost trackers are a brilliant way to just get started. And I think once people get started, it can become quite addictive to carry on going because they see the progress they're making. And I do think that once people get to a certain level, they will always want that guidance from advisors. But it does, if it's priced in the correct way, then people once they can afford it should be happy to pay for it.
Yeah, definitely. That's just made me think of, so I'm currently working on a feature. When this podcast comes out, I think I'll still be working on it, about whether there's a future for face-to-face, actually in-person financial advice, even sort of 20, 30, 40 years down the line, because obviously within the immediate future there is, or whether everything's going to go on to even like just video calls, but also just generally online. What do you think there's always going to be a place for in-person advice?
Yes. Yeah, and I would say that, wouldn't I? Because that's my job. But I really do. I think when things, and by face to face, I mean it can be over Teams or Zoom or whatever as well. I always do prefer to see people in person, because I think there's certain nuances that can't be picked up currently via video, and body language can't be read as well. Who knows? With technology is not my strong point. Maybe that will develop over time with holograms or whatever. Who knows? But I do think there will always be the need for a relationship, and I think that's a key thing. It's our clients and the way we work with our clients. It's a relationship. It's not all about which investments are the best. It's about building a relationship with someone that you trust. That takes time. It's getting to really know people and what makes them tick, what their objectives are, how best to deliver advice to them, because everybody's different formats. The way you approach people, the way you talk, which forms of communication you provide to people. So I really do think it is a relationship thing. A lot of my clients are my friends, and both ways now, because the relationship is quite deep over time. You really do get to know people. We're often, I've often had clients say to me, I'm telling you stuff I've not told many other people before. So I do. I mean, who knows, 15, 20 years from now, obviously lots can change. We all watch sci-fi films and things like that. But I have to say, I do. I think, for advice I get on other things, I would always want a person.
Yeah. No, same. I totally agree. The irony of discussing in-person advice on Teams.
On Teams, yeah. I would still consider that in person now. I think everyone's got very used to Teams over the past few years.
True, yeah. When it was like the height of lockdown and that was the only way one could socialise, those times were weird.
Yes.
That was, it's interesting. I obviously speak to quite a few advisors, and a lot of them say about how some of their clients almost sort of, they're so close that they're like, you would consider them friends, which did just make me think of another feature I've worked on. So a feature that I was writing for the May issue about, it was actually about like advisor mental health. But one of the things that it looked at was, the depth of conversations that advisors have to have with clients, and how it almost sort of verges on therapy sometimes, and how maybe some of the younger advice, somebody I was speaking to for the feature from Verve Foundation, from the Verve group, was saying maybe some of the younger advisors aren't so prepared for that. Is that like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's, I can see that, but I think they can also provide other things. So I think generally most clients tend to be, and I'm sort of a really broad brush statement here. Most advisors, their clients tend to be 10 or 15 years either way of their age. Not all, but a lot. And so you're when I'm talking to a lot of my clients, there are a lot of similarities, in terms of where you are in your life, children, family, all that sort of thing. So there are a lot of shared experiences that you can talk about, things that you've been through that they are going through, or things that you're about to go through that they're going through. For younger advisors, and I found this when I started my career, sometimes you go into meetings with people and potentially, you're a bit nervous about it because they're quite a bit older than you. You think they're more experienced than you. And in certain aspects of life, they probably are, but not in what you have to offer. And I think as long as you're confident in your advice and I think this is key, have found yourself a mentor who's probably possibly a little bit older in your firm or another firm, who you respect, who you can bounce ideas off and get that received experience from them. You can use that with your client who may be a bit older than you, but what you can provide them with is and I think this is key for a lot of clients, that you're still going to be there because you're younger. When the key moments in their lives happen, like retirement and things like that, you're not exactly the same age as them or older, so you're going to be retired before they are and they're passed on to someone else. So you're in it for the long run with them. So I think I can understand people feeling like that, but I think being confident in their own knowledge and finding someone, hopefully in their own firm or another, that can be a bit of a mentor to them and talk about similar situations that they've faced in the past is key. I certainly had that when I was younger. And we're trying to do that with our younger advisors now. We have sort of quarterly advisor seminars internally where we all just try and share knowledge and what's gone well for us, what's not gone great with us, talk about scenarios so we can pass that knowledge on. And those younger advisors feel experienced because we're a bit more experienced.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a really good point. I think maybe younger advisors can be put off having older clients sometimes, or feel sort of a bit inferior to them in a way. And I think especially for younger women with maybe older male clients, they might, I don't know, it's a massive generalization, but I certainly, as a young female journalist, felt quite, what's the word? Intimidated going into a room with an old male CEO to interview him, because I thought, he's just going to know so much more than me. He's been in this industry for 30 years or whatever. And I'm just a young journalist. So yeah, no, I can see that.
Yeah.
Great. So we're probably coming towards the end of our time now, but I did just want to ask you one last thing, if you don't mind. And that is, is there one piece of advice that you'd give? So obviously you co-launched 5 Wealth with your 4 colleagues. Is there one piece of advice that you'd give to someone looking to launch their own advice business?
Yeah, I think I've probably got 2 pieces of advice.
Okay, that's fine.
Right.
2 is fine.
So the first one would be, I suppose they're connected really. The first one is to, whatever you do it with people you get on with, can work with and enjoy being around. And that's not just your colleagues, that's your clients. Find clients that you get on with and you like and can work together well, because it's a two-way street. With your colleagues that you launch the business with, or if you're doing it alone, that's I've a great deal of credit there, because that's quite a lonely thing to do. I would advocate doing it with someone else, at least one person, in my case 4. But to share ideas and bounce ideas off and have someone to talk to is key, because it is a very lonely thing, launching a business. And the second thing, I think I forgot because I talked about the first thing too much. The second thing, I suppose it's linked to the first thing, is about finding your niche. Don't try and be everything to all people. Find an area of advice that maybe you're interested in, are good at, are experienced at, or a sector you feel you resonate quite well with or have knowledge of, and focus on that and try and become the expert in that field rather than everything to everyone. And I think that's what from my experience, we launched the firm, there was 5 of us. A lot of my clients are my friends. I get on with them really well. We work well together, and we focus on business owners because we own a business, so we get it. We've taken investment, so we can talk to those business owners about taking investment. We're professionals as well, so we advise professionals. I understand how that works. I'm in that world. So we feel there's a lot that we can give because we focused on what we do and made that our niche.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Very helpful advice. And thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed talking to you, Steve.
No, thank you. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to In Conversation With. We do hope that you enjoyed it. Please do keep up to date with all our new releases via Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcasts from. You can also keep up to date with all our new content published on the Money Marketing website, as well as our print edition Money Marketing magazine. So make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time.